Okay, good morning everybody and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Vaera. Okay, Vaera means to appear. Our parasha begins with God telling Moses how he appeared to not only him, but he also appeared to the Avot, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, and the whole conversation that God now has with Moshe on Har Sinai. Let's remind ourselves what we are up to in our parasha last week, previously on Exodus. Okay, last week in Parashat Shemot, at the end of the parasha, Moshe came to Paro and he prepared, let my people go. And what did Paro say? No. Not only did he say no, but he even doubled down on the workload. So he said to them, you guys want to go free? Who's talking about free? You guys have time to think about going free? Oh boy, you guys have way too much time on your hands. I see. Okay, I guess you have so much time. Maybe we're being too generous with the freedom that we're giving you. Maybe we're too easy on the labor that we're giving you. So Paro makes the Jews not only have to make and meet the same quota of bricks, but they have to now even make their own straw, find their own straw, make their own bricks. Nothing is given to them. So Moshe is now just dejected. Moshe goes back to God and he's like, all right, God, what's going on? Come on, you sent me to take the Jews out. Moshe thought it's going to be easy. He's going to go in, let my people go. Paro's going to be like, yes, sir. Ala eni u ala rasi, like we say in Arabic. No problem. Go ahead. The door is right there. Bechavod, would you like some lemonade on your way out? That's what Moshe thought. Of course, it wasn't like that. And Paro said no. And then Moshe goes back to God and he's like, God, what's going on? I thought this is not like we rehearsed. And God says to Moshe, don't worry. It's all part of a plan. And he sends him back now to Paro. So here we go. Take a look, please. What God says to Moshe. God says to Moshe, don't worry, I will take you out. Vehotzeti, vehitzalti, vega'alti, velakachti. 4 languages of redemption, 4 types of redemption. And go tell the Jews, I'm going to take you out of the Sivlot Mitzrayim. I'm going to remove you from all of these tortures that you're involved in. I'll bring you the land of milk and honey. Well, Vaidaber Moshe, please take a look, chapter 6, Pasuk 9. Vaidaber Moshe kena ben Israel. Moshe goes back and says to the Jewish people, all right guys, I know there was a little bit of a hiccup, there was a little bump on the road. Paro did make things a little bit hard, but spoke to God and it's all okay, nothing to worry about. And what did the Jews say back? Velo shameu el Moshe. They didn't listen to him. The Jews didn't believe Moshe. Velo shameu el Moshe. Mikotzer ruach ume'avoda kasha. Okay? Let's translate those words. They didn't believe Moshe. Their spirits crushed by cruel bondage. That's how it's translated here on Sefaria. Mikotzer ruach. Spirits were crushed and cruel bondage. Ume'avoda kasha. So I'd like to first begin today and share with you a beautiful Pardes Yosef. Take a look at what he says. We know that the Jewish people originally were decreed to be in Egypt. God already said to Abraham that they're going to be slaves in a foreign land, strangers in a foreign land, and they're going to be worked hard. Va'avadum ve'inu otam. They're going to be enslaved for how many years? For how many? What does Pasuk say? Anyone know? Va'avadum ve'inu otam. 400 shana. So everybody write that down. 400 years. Now if we calculate, we're not going to do the whole calculation, but if we calculate, how long were the Jews in Egypt? By the way, it's a very simple calculation. Okay? And here's how we could figure it out quickly. Okay? Quickly. There's other ways to figure it out. But I could prove to you how long the Jews were in Egypt. When the Jews... Okay, so the answer is 210. But how do we know 210? Very good. How do we know 210? So here's the calculation. When they came down to Mizrahi with Yaakov and all of the Mishpacha, who was born right then and there as they came into the walls of Egypt? Very good. Wow, you answered that faster than I asked. I don't know how you answered that. Okay, very good. Yocheved. Yocheved was born, so she's 0 years old, 1 day old, the second they enter Egypt. How old is she when she gives birth to Moses? 130. Love this. So she's 130. So far, when she's 130, the Jews are in Egypt for 130. Basically, the Jews are in Egypt as long as she is. Okay? Because she's born the second they get in there. So she's 130. She gives birth to Moshe. How old's Moshe when he comes to Paro right here? 80. 130 plus 80, 210. Okay, so that's a very simple calculation. How to figure out how long the Jews are in Egypt. So they're only there for 210 years. Now the promise that God made to Abraham was 400. How do you account for the missing 190 years? Where'd they go? Overall, there are two ways to answer this question. The missing 190. Okay? There's two approaches. Okay? One approach is that they didn't complete the 400 years. They still owe 190 more. But God couldn't wait, and he couldn't afford to wait for them to finish it, because if he waited, they would have been at such a low spiritual level that they would have never left Egypt. It would have been too late to leave. So God took them out early. Okay? Now, according to this approach, they technically still owe 190 years. Okay? That's one approach. The other approach is no, that they don't owe anything. They completed their 400 years, because it's possible to complete 400 years in 210 years of time if you work double and you work extra hours. As an example, if you have to do 10 hours of work, okay, you could finish that in one day. You could finish that over a week. Depends how many hours a day you work. So the Jews completed 400 years worth of work in 210 years, because the work, the avodah, was so intense, it was so difficult, that they were able to accomplish 400 quality in 210 quantity. Okay, does that make any sense? Okay, these are I'm gonna take that as a yes, everybody. Okay, although I can't see most of your faces, and the ones that do have the videos on, I'm looking at your ceilings or whatever it is. But I'm gonna go with a yes. Okay, now this is. Overall, these are the two answers. Says the Pardes Yosef something beautiful. Watch this. The Jews didn't buy either of those answers. The Jews said, no, come on. Don't give us those answers. Either approach they didn't like. Velo shame'u Moshe mikotze ruach, whether you tell us the answer that we're on a low spiritual level, or you tell us the answer that there's avodah kasha, and that we worked so hard that it's the equivalent of 400 years. Either answer we don't like. Okay? Beautiful Pardes Yosef. So that's explaining to us why the Jews didn't believe. But there is a very, very important question that we have to address over here, and that is the following question. The question is first asked by the Rashbam. Okay? Earlier, at the end of last week's parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu came to the Jewish people already. Okay? So if you go back to the end of last week, they come to Moshe, they come to the people, end of chapter 4. And how does the chapter 4, how does it end? Chapter 4 ends with the words, Vaya'amen ha'am. What does that mean? The people believed. They believed Moshe. And they believed that Pakad Hashem et Bnei Israel. The people were convinced, and they heard that the Lord had taken note of the Israelites and that he had seen their plight. They bowed low in homage. Okay? So the people were very happy. So when Moshe comes to them the first time, they accept his message. They believe that they're going to go free. And now just one chapter later, that was end of chapter 4. Now we're back in chapter 6, Pasuk 9. Velo shamu el Moshe. They no longer believe Moshe. And the question is, what changed? What happened that before you believed them and now you don't? Why did they believe Moshe before and they don't believe him now? Says the Rashbam. Take a look at the Rashbam. Very important commentary. Grandson of Rashi. Velo shame'u el Moshe ata. Now they didn't believe Moshe. Af al pi she'eminu etchila. Even though they believed last week when it said Vaya'amen ha'am. What changed in between last week and this week? The simplest answer that you could think of. So whatever answer you could think of right now, it's probably right. Why last week they believed Moshe and this week they didn't believe Moshe? Because last week Moshe had no reason to be, they didn't have any reason to suspect that he was a liar. So they said, okay, we're with you. But then something happened. Then Moshe went to Paro. And Paro not only didn't listen, but he intensified the labor. So Moshe comes back and he's like, you lose all your credibility, man. You said you're going to free us. We believed you. We put our money on you. Right? Then, week later, we still, not only does it not get better, it gets worse. We're not going to believe in you again. That's it. We're out. Bye. Somebody tells you, listen, I have inside information. Bet on the New York Yankees. Okay? They're going to win the game. Put $1 million. I guarantee it. Okay? You put $1 million. You believe the guy. You have $1 million extra in your back pocket, so you put $1 million. Okay? They lose. He comes to you next week and says, no. But now I really know. Okay. All right. Take someone else. I'm not going to be your puppet over here. Okay? I already got hurt once through you. That's it. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Okay, that's as the saying goes. So Moshe, you already fooled us once. We're not going to buy into your whole charade again. We're out. Okay, very simple answer. I like the answer. We like the answer? It's a good answer? I think it's a good answer. Okay, things changed. Last week we believed you. But then, obviously, you have zero credibility. Nothing that you said happened. So we're skeptical. So they don't believe him. That's the answer of the Rashbam. Okay, good. Write that down. Period. Enter. Next line. Ralbag. The Ralbag, also a very important commentary. And he says, following answer. Velo shamuel Moshe mikotze ruach. They didn't believe in Moses because of low spirits. Who's low spirits? So the Rashbam explains, the people had low spirits. They were just beaten up from the work. So that's it. Moshe, get out of here. We don't need you anymore. All right? Just thanks for nothing, man. That's what the Rashbam said. The people had low spirits. Says the Ralbag, no. It was the Kotze Ruach of Moshe. He had low spirits. He was depressed. He started losing his confidence and his fire. So when he delivered the message in a lower, smaller way, the people no longer bought into it. His frame of mind, his ruach, wasn't as vibrant, wasn't the same as before. When Moshe came the first time, he's like, guys, we're going to do it. Like a coach walks into the locker room, we're going to beat him. We got this. And the people are like, they come in halftime, and the coach is like, all right, guys, we're gonna win. We're gonna do it, guys. All right, just give it your best. And the people already see in the coach that it's over. They could tell that even their coach doesn't believe in them. If you can't convince yourself, how are you going to convince other people? I remember one time when I was at a certain hotel, they were trying to sell me a timeshare. And they give you free things, right? You ever go on these 1.5-hour tours of the timeshare? Some people get a whole free vacation with a timeshare tour, by the way. It's maybe worth looking into. Okay, 1.5 hours, and you get like 5 nights free. I don't know, crazy promotions. And they're really good. And one time, I remember on this timeshare, I asked the person, or someone asked the person, tell me, do you own a timeshare? And the person said, of course I do. Actually, every salesman here is forced to own a timeshare, because if you don't own it, if you don't have one yourself, how could you sell it? If you don't believe in your product, how do you expect other people to believe into it? So that's something that's a very powerful message. In life, we all have products. And I think the message is that whatever it is that we're trying to do in life, if we're passionate, we'll be successful. If you're doing what you do for money, you won't be successful at it. You may make money, but you'll not be successful. To be successful, someone's a nutritionist. They're only successful if they're passionate about nutrition. A person that's a good doctor is passionate about health. A person that's a good rabbi has to be passionate about Torah. If a person's a rabbi for the money, so first of all, you're in the wrong business, okay? And second of all, you're not going to hit other people. You're not going to reach them. Okay, to be successful, we have to have a strong ruach. We have to be passionate about what we're selling. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't passionate anymore. He was dejected. He was low in spirits. And therefore, Moshe says, the people didn't believe him because he was kotzer ruach. Okay, very nice. Now, by the way, the Ralbag proves over here his position. You ready? Take a look at the Ralbag. Ralbag says that this explains the next line. Okay? The next line, God says to Moshe, okay, now, bo daber el Paro. Now, okay, good job, you went to the Jews. Now go to Paro and tell him the same message. Moshe says back, Hen b'nei Yisrael lo shamu elai. God, the Jews didn't believe me. Ve'ich Paro. How do I expect Paro to believe me? And this is the first Kal Vachomer. I think it's the first. Maybe it's not the first. Sorry, but this is one of 10 Kal Vachomers in the Torah. Anyone know what's a Kal Vachomer? Kal Vachomer, I believe it's pronounced in English fortiori. Okay, I don't know if that helps anybody. By the way, I can't imagine someone be like, Rabbi, what's a Kal Vachomer? A fortiori. Okay. Thanks for telling me. Okay. Either way. A Kal Vachomer is like this, okay? It's basically logic. Kal Vachomer means, if I could do this difficult thing, then obviously I could do this easier thing. Kal and Chomer. If I could do it if something that's light is like this, then obviously the more difficult thing is going to be like that. So I'll give you an example, okay? If I could score a 3-pointer, then obviously I could score a layup, okay? Kal Vachomer. Okay, there's many Kal Vachomers, and one of them is in the Torah, and it's right here. Take a look at the Kal Vachomer. Okay, Moshe says to God, if the Jews don't accept my message, how do you expect Ariel to believe my message? Okay? It's like you tell your parents, if you don't believe in me, then how do you expect other people to believe? Right? Okay, fine. So, if the Jews didn't accept my message to them, so this is a Kal Vachomer. Now let me ask you, everybody, is that a good Kal Vachomer? It's a good Kal Vachomer, no? Make sense? One more time, it's simple. If the Jews, who are religious, good people, keep on everything, right? If the Jews don't believe me, then how do you expect a Rasha to believe me? Ask the Rabbi, that's not a good Kal Vachomer. Why didn't the Jews believe Moshe? Because they were low in spirits. They couldn't believe in him. They were just so fatigued. They were so tired. So they couldn't hear his message. Paro's not tired. Paro's playing backgammon or whatever he's doing. He's not kotzer ruach and avodah kasha. That's not a Kal Vachomer. You can't compare the two. They're different. When you do a study and you compare things in science, variables have to be the same. Everything has to be equal. Or if there's a slight difference, you can't connect it. You can't compare the two. Paro is not avodah kasha. He's not working hard. He doesn't have low spirits. Why? What's the Kal Vachomer? So this is the question of the Ralbag. So he says that's only a problem according to you, the Rashbam. According to me, the kotzer ruach is not on the people's part, but on Moshe's part. So that's a very nice Kal Vachomer. If Moshe is now saying to God, if the Jews don't believe me because they detected that I wasn't lacking the fire and the energy and I wasn't convincing, if I wasn't convincing to the Jews, then obviously my message to Paro will be the same and I won't be convincing to him either this time. Beautiful. Does that make sense? If I can't convince the Jews that this is going to happen, then how do you expect me to do it with Paro? Paro. So the whole problem, according to Ralbag, is from Moshe's end. He's the one that's not able to be convincing enough. Okay? Next. I would like to share with you 2 more answers today. Okay, and then we'll end. Answer number 3. Explaining this Pasuk. Why did they believe earlier and all of a sudden they stopped believing now? Okay? Says Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, based on the Midrash. We all know the famous Midrash. The Midrash tells us that earlier, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to convince Paro, when he was still on Paro's good side, before he ran away, right? He was able to convince Paro to give the Jews a day off. The idea of a day off of work started all the way back in Egypt, thanks to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now this was all a decoy to get them to not have to work on Shabbat. But he convinces Paro, he can't say Shabbat, because then Paro is going to know who he is. He's going to know that, oh, you're a Jew, you care about Jews, da da da. So he has to create some story. So what's the story that Moshe creates? He says to Paro, oh, listen, you want him to work. I understand that. But they'll be much more efficient if they get a day off. You give them a day off, they'll produce better on the 6 other days. Paro buys it. He says, okay, which day should we give him? He says, give him Shabbat, Give him, Saturday is what I meant to say. Right? It's like, it reminds me of the great joke. There was once a Jew that wanted to join this club. The problem is that the club was anti-Semitic. So this guy has to now go through an identity change. I don't know if he could have said, I identify as a goy. But either way, he goes through his identity change. And he learns perfect Oxford English. And he changes his name and everything. And finally, he comes up in front of the board. And he says to them, I would like to join your club. And they say to them, okay, what's your name? And he clears his throat and he says, John Smith. And they say, okay, and where'd you go to school? And he says, Princeton. And they say, okay, great. And last question, what's your religion? And he says, I'm a goy. Okay? So I don't think Moshe said gave him Shabbat, He probably said, just give him the end of the week. Saturday is fine. And okay. So they had Shabbat off and they were able to use Shabbat as a day of staying spiritual. That's why we say in Amidah on Shabbat, Yismach Moshe. Moshe was happy because of the portion of Shabbat. Why is Shabbat belong to Moshe more than David, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? What does Shabbat have to do with Moshe? The answer is Moshe is the one that was able to get the Jews to get off of Shabbat working. Beautiful. So that is the Midrash. And what did they do on Shabbat? What did they do all day? They have off. Now what? They didn't have. I don't think they had Monopoly yet. That they could waste their day on. So what did they do? You know what they did? Actually, we know Moshe wrote books. He wrote Sfarim. He wrote for them Iyov. He wrote for them chapters in Tehillim. So he wrote different important works that they were able to study for the every Shabbat. And Iyov, as an example, is a book on tzaddik, veralo, on the righteous and why they have to suffer. And he wrote different books of philosophy, different chapters in Tehillim about redemption, things to lift the Jews' spirits. But what happened was, when Moshe came many years later and said, let my people go, so Paro intensified the labor, and now the Jews were no longer able to take Shabbat as a day off. Now they had to work even on Shabbat. So when Moshe came to them last week, and he said, guys, God sent me, I'm here to take you out. So when he spoke of redemption, so they understood redemption. They were always thinking about redemption. It was in their dictionary. It was in their horizons. It was in their rear view mirror somewhere. So they were able to relate to the concept of redemption. But now, a week later, it was more than a week, but whatever time lapsed. But now, when we're reading in our parasha, then all of a sudden the work intensified. Paro now makes them work on Shabbat. They were no longer using that vernacular. They were no longer relating to the idea of redemption. So Moshe comes and says, I'm here to redeem you. They're like, what? What redemption? They couldn't even fathom. They couldn't even think. They couldn't even relate because they stopped thinking about these things. So look how important it is to be able to dream. The first step of getting out of something is to dream about it, to be able to think about it, to be able to talk about it, to be able to learn about it. That's the first step. Once it's there, now you're able to maybe hear the concept and believe in it when it's brought and presented at a later day. Okay, that's the answer of Yaakov Kamenetsky. The final answer, those three answers were I heard from Rabbi Bernstein, Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, that is the father, in his Perashat tape. I'd like to share with you, though, a fourth answer that I was reading in this amazing book over here, the Lekach Tov, that he brings from Rav Lopian. Okay, and take a look at this amazing, very important concept. He says, we know that last week, Moshe goes over not only to the people, but who else did he go to? When he was ready to, before he goes to Paro. Okay? Who does he go to? He goes to the people, but he also goes to the elders. Yes? He goes to the Zekenim. And he tells them, listen, can you guys come with me? I'm ready to go to Paro. And the people believed in him. And the Zekenim believed in him. And they're like, all right, let's go. Now go to the end of last week's parasha for a minute, okay? So, here we go, chapter 4, end of the chapter. The people believed. Vaya'amen ha'am. So they come to now Paro. Now who's coming to Paro? Moshe, Aaron, and all of the elders, right? But what happened? Ve'achar, look at the Pasuk, chapter 5, Pasuk 1. Ve'achar, ba'u Moshe ve'Aaron, vayamru el Paro. Then Moshe and Aaron came to Paro. Rashi says, Aval hazekenim nishmetu, but where are the elders? Only Moshe and Aaron, says Rashi, because the elders nishmetu ehad ehad. One by one, they started slipping away. You know? It's like when you go into the principal, all the kids, they have an important request or they want to, so like, you know, the kid in the front of the class and he has all the kids behind him. And as they start walking, they realize, oh, this is maybe not such a good idea. This is a bad idea, guys. I think we should back out. And one by one, they start slipping away until the kid is standing there in front of the principal and he thinks he has like the whole grade supporting him. And he's like, hey, principal! And the principal's like, yeah, what do you want? He starts telling you, and he turns around, he's like all by himself, you know? So this is what happened over here to Moshe and Aaron. They're by themselves. Nobody came. And by the way, and why didn't they come? Because Yaru Lalech, they were afraid. And they were rewarded. Aharon was rewarded where? Where was Aharon rewarded for all of this? Venefra beSinai. Har Sinai. Because the Pasuk says, who came out of the mountain? Venigash Moshe. Moshe was able to come. And Aharon was able to go a little bit closer. And everyone else, they had to stay very far. So that is the payback for this episode over here, that Aharon stuck with Moshe. But the question remains, what happened to the Zekenim? Moshe comes, he does miracles, by the way. He does the snake, staff turning into a snake. He puts his hand and it turns into leprosy, everything. He's convincing them. And they're like, yeah, these are Zekenim, by the way. These are not regular people. These are religious people. These are very big Nevi'im, probably, yeah? The elders. We're talking about the highest level in religion back then. And they accepted and they believed Moshe. And all of a sudden they get to the palace and no one's there with them to support them. Where'd they all go? What happened? How does that happen? And I'd like to share with you where Rav Eliyahu Lopian says, and he says something that's very, very powerful. And this is something that we've spoken about in the past. There are different type of midot. There's intellectual midot and there's emotional midot. Okay, meaning we have our minds, and we have our emotions. Now, when we live our lives and we act and whatever we do day to day, what dictates what we do? Our mind or our emotions? We act based on our emotions. Okay? Meaning in life, there's believing in your mind, but there's something a little bit deeper than that, and that's believing in your heart. Your mind, sometimes you may find yourself saying the sentence, I know, but I just can't. My gut. Right? What is that, my gut? Because we don't act through our minds. We act through our gut. We act through our emotions. So sometimes we can know something in our minds to be true, but we just can't do it. We just can't live it. Okay? And part of a person's growth in life is to be able to take what they know up here and to transfer it and to make it part of their emotion so that they can now live and act in that way. By the way, we know that there's chokhmah, there's bina, and there's da'at. What is chokhmah? What is bina? What is da'at? Chokhmah is what we know, knowledge. Bina is what we understand, right? To infer different things through our knowledge. But then there's da'at. Da'at comes from the word Adam yada et chava ishto. To know in Hebrew, da'at doesn't mean to know only, but it means to connect. Adam connected to his wife. Da'at means to take what I know here and to connect it to here.
So says who was it that said it? The Belzer Rebbe. He said the same way there's a difference between someone who knows and someone who doesn't know. There's an equal amount of difference between someone who knows up here only to someone who knows in here. Our goal and our job in life is to be able to transfer all of our knowledge, to be able for it to penetrate our feelings and our emotions so that we can now live according to our sechel. And that's what it means when we say Veyadata hayom vehashevota el levavecha. You have to know, but it's not enough to know. Because you can have someone that knows, but if it's not brought into the live, it won't penetrate how they live. Bilam was somebody that knew. Bilam was a very, very smart person. Esav was someone who knew. Esav was a very, very smart person. Bilam was Yodea Da'at Elyon. Esav, his head was buried in Marat HaMachpelah. He was brighter than Yaakov even. The problem was that they never made that da'at, that connection from the mind into the live. The longest highway is the highway from here to here. It's the most difficult one to travel. And if we're able to be successful and take what we know and move it here, we'll be successful in life. You can have a person that knows smoking is bad for them, but I just can't. I know that eating these foods are harming me. I know I need to start working out. I know I need to start being a little bit more productive in my... I know. We can know something, but unless we're able to act it, unless we could apply da'at, and that's what it means in Pirkei Avot. Im en da'at, en chokhmah. Or is it en binah? Okay, im en da'at. Let's look it up, right? Here we go. I believe it's in chapter 3, Pirkei Avot. It's all the way with all the imens here. Imen bina en da'at. Imen da'at en bina. Okay? If there's no da'at, a person cannot connect the two, then what's your bina worth? All your knowledge is worth nothing. So says Rav Lopian, this is what happened with the Zekenim. They knew it. Moshe came and they said, yes, we believe you. Okay, go ahead. Come with me. But when it came to reality, when it came to living it, when it came to experiencing it, they weren't able to do it. Even the Zekenim, their da'at was lacking on a certain level. They weren't able to live. So last week, Vaya'amen ha'am. But now this week when Moshe comes again, Velo shame'u el Moshe mikotzer ruach. They weren't able to do that final step. There's an amazing, beautiful mashal. There was once a person on a tightrope, and he says, "Who thinks I can walk on the tightrope?" And everyone's like skeptical. Oh, I don't know. Okay. So he starts walking on the tightrope, and he proves himself. So he says, all right, who thinks I can do it again? So everyone's like, yeah, we think you can do it again. And he does it a second time. He says, who thinks I can do it blindfolded? And all of a sudden, everyone's hand goes down. And he blindfolds himself, and he starts walking, and he kills it. He walks across. And he's like, all right, who thinks I can do it again blindfolded? And now a few hands go up. He does it a second time. Third time, everyone's hand goes up. Then finally, he goes on a unicycle. Who thinks I can do it on a unicycle? Hands go down. He starts going on the unicycle on the tightrope. Then he goes back and he says, all right, who thinks I can do it again? 2, 5, 10 hands go up. We do it a third time, all the hands go up. Who thinks I can do it blindfolded? And again, the hands go down. Okay, fine. 2, 10. Does it 20 times, blindfolded on the unicycle, 20 times without floor. It says finally, who thinks I can do it again? All the hands go up. And then he says, who wants to come on my shoulders? All the hands go down. Because in life, you can believe in something, you can know something, but then there's applying it and being able to live that way. And that is much harder. That's the difference between emunah and bitachon. Emunah is I believe in Hashem. But bitachon is being able to live with Hashem. To be able to apply what we know up here and to make that very long trip down the highway into our emotions, into our lev. Veyadata hayom vehashevota elevavecha, to be able to take what we know, but to be able to live with it, to experience it, to apply it to our lev. Then and only then will we be able to be truly successful. Okay, we'll stop over here, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.